They just say, Corey, I just want to be laser focused on bringing over my clients. I don't want all the other noise. I want the ownership. I want the autonomy. I want the additional economics, but I don't want to be running a business on top of taking care of my clients.
Everything you just said, like it's a distraction from what they're truly passionate about, right? Almost everybody's passionate about growth. Some of them are passionate about business planning. Some of them are passionate about culture, right? So they all have something that they're really interested in, but having to do all of it just absolutely distracts.
They say, Corey, all of this sounds amazing. What does this cost? What's the delta between me doing this on my own? How much more is Strategic Wealth Services on like a percentage payout basis versus them running it on their own?
You're going to be really strong on the strategic wealth side. If you're a little bit less interested in those things and you're a kind of a light user, you're going to be dead even. The difference is the growth rate. That's kind of what we've seen when we compare the models. You are going to grow faster if you are outsourcing the things that are non-essential to the core.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today. As you may know from some of my other videos, we are very involved in a financial advisor's search when they're taking a look at a different firm, but also once they actually decide to make a decision, just helping them actually launch their firm and kind of being like a consultant around that process as well. And when an advisor is breaking away, one of the biggest challenges is actually building the infrastructure needed for running a new business, the office space, figuring out what desks, chairs, computers that you need, all while you're still running a business at the current firm that you're at. And advisors tell me all the time when I'm helping them explore their options, Corey, if I could just lift my business up from my current firm and place it somewhere else, I would have already moved independent already. And while there's no solution like that out there yet, LPL Strategic Wealth Services model has helped elite breakaway advisors come as close to that as being a reality as possible. So today we have Kim Sanders, the Senior Vice President of LPL Strategic Wealth Services model, on to educate us a little bit about the offering. Kim, I really appreciate you hopping on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting.
So I've talked to you about this in the past, but being an ex-LPL employee and recruiter, I begged and prayed for this for years, not in any way taking credit for this, but I'm just really happy that it exists, because there's just so many financial advisors that I've spoken to over the years that they just say, Corey, I just want to be laser focused on bringing over my clients. I don't want all the other noise. I want the ownership. I want the autonomy. I want the additional economics, but I don't want to be running a business on top of taking care of my clients. And it's obviously been, extremely successful.
It's a distraction, like everything you just said, like it's a distraction from what they're truly passionate about, right? They're either passionate about, they're almost everybody's passionate about growth. Some of them are passionate about business planning. Some of them are passionate about culture, right? So they all have something that they're really interested in, but having to do all of it just absolutely distracts. So
100%. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about Strategic Wealth Services, and for a breakaway financial advisor, how it just helps them make their life easier, and who it's the right fit for?
Sure. So we have been in market now just 4 years. So we launched April Fool's Day of 2020, right into the heart of a pandemic. So that was fantastic. And we definitely knew who it was for, right? So we built it for that breakaway audience, just like you said. We knew what the demands were. They were looking for something that would be turnkey, would help them get from an employee model all the way into a position where they had ownership. They were building equity. They were, servicing their clients in a way that just really invited referrals, right? So it was all really focused on that growth piece and really providing excellence to the clients. So that's really who we originally targeted. Today, we've got about 80% of the firms came from a breakaway employee model. About 20% were already independent, right? And so kind of that same distraction problem that we were just talking about existed for them as well. And so they've been extraordinarily successful in growing, and often saying that they're getting more referrals than they've ever seen before. So that kind of there's both of those audiences. You also have advisors that are looking for possibly this to be the first of multiple steps, right? So an advisor can come, a team can come, and they can be part of the national RIA, right? So that makes sense for a lot of advisors, right? So moving from employee to CCO, CEO, COO overnight is probably a bridge too far, and it's too many hats to turn on like that. But a lot of the advisors do eventually want to have their own RIA. So Strategic Wealth sits on top of both platforms. So you can be part of the national RIA, you can be your own RIA, and the Strategic Wealth Business Services and that layer of support comes with them. So you've got advisors who have that kind of aspiration. And then on the flip side, you also have advisors who are looking at this as kind of step one towards exit, towards succession. So they're coming out, they're building these independent businesses, they're creating equity ownership, and then they're looking to sell the business. And a lot of them are looking at LPL liquidity and capital as a solution there, where they can actually sell the business, maintain the brand, maintain the legacy that they had created, and it allows that next gen to kind of stand up and get the ownership back from the advisor. And at that point, the advisor hasn't had to self-finance the loan, has not had to take a discount in order to let that next gen kind of jump up and take control. It's a way for them to monetize completely, but also maintain the legacy. So you've got these different aspirations of the advisors. In terms of profile, they are typically going to be corner office teams, tenured teams, multiple advisors, a couple of staff. One of the things I think that it makes it a great option for like a team to come from a Breakaway is you don't need a ton of staff to come over and work with Strategic Wealth. So it means that they can come over fairly light and then leverage the support structure that we've got. So I'll go through the support structure really quick for you, just to support that comment. So it starts with the startup team, right? So that is usually the thing that is the most interesting for the advisors. And they want to understand, how am I going to get from here to there? So the startup team comes in and they manage the kind of three long poles in the tent: marketing, legal, and then real estate. Those are the things that take the longest. So we get started working on that, moving them through that process, and then we pepper in the other decisions that they need to make, like insurance, professional insurance or benefits, like that kind of comes in towards the end, right before they're ready to launch. And the startup consultant comes in as their interim COO. Right. And so when they are taking over all of that work, to your point, the advisor gets to build this thing, but also stay focused on their clients, because this is the most important time for them to stay uber focused on those clients, right? They can't all of a sudden be distracted for 2 months and then, come and ask a client to come with them at the end of the day. So that interim COO really plays a key role. So that's that first piece. All of that is done for the advisor, done at no out-of-pocket costs. So it's a huge differentiator for the model. And then you come in and it's like, okay, we finally transitioned. We are now over the hump. We've acclimated. It is time for us to start growing again. And so then two new teams come into play. One is the elite strategy team, and that strategy team is made up of your CFO and your bookkeeper, your marketing professional. You have a fintech advisor, tech consultant that's part of that team, and it's all led by a business strategist. And the business strategist works with the advisor and the team on really building out their strategy and figuring out, how do they want to grow? What are the levers that they want to pull? What are the aspirations? Are they the team that's looking to move towards RIA, or are they the team that's looking to move towards exit, right? Because everything that you're going to do between now and that next step has to be thoughtful, right? You're trying to build the firm that sets you up for either one of those two paths. So they're all working together. It's all integrated. So it's really becoming extraordinarily efficient for the advisor, right? So they're instead of making a call to their marketing team and then pivoting and then making the call to the finance person and making the call to the tech team, right? You're making one call to the business strategist and they're pulling that whole C-suite together and saying, all right, right, the firm is looking to acquire. What do we need to do? And then they all start kind of coming into action, right? So you're developing the marketing materials and the pitch books. You are working on the financial models and figuring out how do we create, what's the valuation look like? What's the right deal structure? Pulling in the tech team, like, all right, we're going to bring this new team on. We got to make sure we've got equipment. So all of that's happening while the advisor goes back and spends time growing the business, working on the client experience, supporting the staff, and we're doing that work behind the scenes. And then the service team comes in, right, to help make sure that they're always delivering extraordinary service. And that is the client success team. And there's a side of virtual admin that comes with that, where you've got all of your service professionals, your supervisory team, your case managers, your admin, and they all work as part of a pod in that same way that that strategy team works. They're all integrated. They're talking to each other. They've got a client experience manager that is that bridge for the staff to LPL. So when you have a question, right, you're calling your team and they are the ones that are networking the rest of LPL. They're solving the complex problems. They're bringing the solutions to you. And it's all a deeply personal relationship with all of these individuals because each one of these firms has a dedicated team, whether it's a dedicated admin or they're part of the East Coast or a West Coast service pod. All of these folks only are supporting strategic wealth. So it's a really strong community, and the client satisfaction scores are like off the charts. So that's how we do it.
That's awesome. So, I mean, we just went through this process together with a group, and when they explored through this, they were just so blown away. They didn't have to worry about the office space or building out a website or building out a social media plan. Like I see posts coming out on LinkedIn for them every single day. I know those. That's probably not them posting them out in the middle of a transition, 2 months after they made a transition. So this is just an amazing, turnkey service for sure. One thing that really piqued my interest that I didn't really know is that you also have independent advisors coming to you for this type of model as well. And I just think it's important to talk about because we speak with a lot of financial advisors that have been in the independent channel for a long time and they've built this amazing business. And sometimes their role has kind of changed from a CEO, from a producing financial advisor, which is what they got in the business for, and they love, to a CEO. And they kind of want to get away from that. And there's a million benefits of independence, but it's not all peaches and creams. And sometimes there's frustrations. Advisors, want to be able to outsource. So can you just talk about a couple of those solutions? Because I think that kind of even makes more of a reason why a breakaway may even want a solution like this.
Right. So we've seen actually several teams that are coming from that independent space. And one of the things that they're frustrated by having to wear all the hats. They feel, especially with compliance, which is interesting, right? Because many of them came from an outsourced compliance kind of model, but it felt to me that they had a lot of the responsibilities of the compliance work, right? They were really buried. A big chunk of their day was either worrying about tech, worrying about break fix, worrying about compliance. They spent hours and hours on the phone with service, getting the wrong answers, and doing that dial around, back 3 times to get the answer that they liked the best. And it was really detracting from their ability to grow the business. So when they move over, they take a minute, right, and they're just like take a breath, and they're like, all right, so you're actually going to run all of the communications that I want to issue to my clients. You're going to run them all through compliance for me. I don't have to do that. I'm like, no, we're going to do that for you. We're not only going to help you with the strategy, we're going to write write the posts, we're going to write the blogs, and we will get them all approved for you and we'll send them out for you. You just have to let us know what are the key points. Let us interview. You want to write a book, like you let us know. We'll help you write the book. Then we'll get it all approved. You want to be on a podcast, no problem. These were all of the things that they couldn't do before. And so all the lights go on, and all of a sudden they're spending more time with their clients. They're spending more time in their community. The referrals start coming in. Then you've got multiple advisors calling them and saying, "Hey, I'm actually looking to sell my book. Can you take it over?" Right? I saw that now that you're in the press all the time, now that you're on LinkedIn all the time, I can see what you're doing, and I think my clients would be really happy there. So we have unsolicited M&A happening. About almost, I think 25% or more of our firms have had some inorganic activity already in the 4 years. So
Wow.
it's been that growth seems to be the thing that really has been unlocked for them.
So I know when I tell financial advisors about this, they say, Corey, all of this sounds amazing. You know, like what does this cost? What's the delta between me doing this on my own and me going out and doing my own office space and my social media strategy and my payroll and all of these other services? When you're doing a profitability analysis with potential recruits, like how much more is Strategic Wealth Services on like a percentage payout basis versus them running it on their own?
So when you look at it and you're building the same kind of practice, right? So you can't really compare someone who's like, look, I'm just like gonna work out of my basement and not have any of the social media, because it's a different
Sure.
kind of business. So if you're both running this professional business with all of these resources and you're taking advantage of them, you are going to run a point or two difference between the models. It
Wow.
just really is, right? So typically, if you're a heavy user of technology and marketing and your staffing model, right, you're able to like leverage our team. You're going to be really strong on the strategic wealth side. If you're a little bit less interested in those things and you're a kind of a light user, um, you're going to be dead even, right? So that's kind of what we've seen when we compare the models. The difference is the growth rate. So when you see, it's really about how you're spending your time. You're spending your time focused on all of the different vendors and partners that you have and making sure they're talking to each other and relaying the messages, doing the extra training, doing the extra work. Or are you outsourcing that and you're spending that time doing business development, working on client events, right? You'll see that the supported models, right? And so that's going to be a Linsco, Strategic Wealth. Those are different models within LPL. Those models are growing 2 to 3 times faster than advisors who are in the non-supported models, right? So we're constantly looking to see how can we add more support, whether it's even just a la carte, like offering the business solutions to our firms that are outside of the supported models, because those firms are also growing faster, right? So people understand, and we can see it and we're tracking it, that you are going to grow faster if you are outsourcing the things that are non-essential to the core, and the core is going to be the client service.
I figured there would be significant more growth in there. Wirehouses and employee firms, they tout all the time that they have, significantly higher growth rates than the independent channel. And regardless if that's true or not, I just the ability for you to keep your eye on the ball, which is, your clients and
Yeah.
not have those distractions, it has to equal more growth. So I think I'm sorry if I have the numbers wrong, but I think you just helped your 42nd team transition. Is that right?
So yeah, 43rd,
43rd.
43rd,
Nice.
and then it's going to be a busy month. So
Nice.
there's a lot happening. Yep, and I think we have at least 20 states. So they're nationally, they're everywhere, um, and it's been really exciting. And that team that profile has changed as we've moved. So you're starting to see larger teams, more complex teams that are now finding the trust and the faith to actually make the move, right? So I think that comes with being in market for a long time and having so many of our advisors that are happily willing to be a reference.
Awesome. So what has the success been from like an asset transfer standpoint? I don't know, whatever you track, like 6 months out or something like that. A wirehouse advisor or an employee advisor, one of their biggest questions are always, how much of my clients are going to come with me? For someone that's helped as many teams as you have, do you have the data to be able to answer that question?
Yeah, and what I'd say is just even over the last, it's been a long time, 15 years, like it doesn't change very much. Like you definitely see over time it's an 80% move, right? Is kind of a general philosophy. We are targeting 90% in 90 days. So that is what we focus on. And we do that by adding additional services at to help kind of move those assets over in terms of transition support, all of the marketing, all of the client communications, the videos, like we go hard at it so that there's a ton of visibility for these advisors. And then, you bring them over and everything's digital. So I think that's probably why we're seeing that 90% target as kind of more of a reality for us. But over time, like so then you kind of bring them out a year, almost everybody is now north of where they were, right? Because now all of a sudden you're finding money that clients had that you didn't know that they had, and they're like, oh, this is fantastic. You're getting referrals. You definitely have surprises where some clients you thought were going to come didn't come. You thought some were never going to come and they were all for it and they brought their daughter with them, right? So there's always those surprises, but in terms of a ramp, I would say that that's kind of our trajectory.
Awesome. Have there been any like commonalities in terms of like surprises that advisors have had or things that they love about your model that maybe you didn't think they would have? Um,
It's
you
almost like you teed that up. I like
know.
these are like two surprises. Like I call like they're the hidden gems. I would have no idea. Um, the IT infrastructure support, the break fix support, making sure everyone's got their computers, their phones, their like when we outfit the real estate and we create these really cool conference rooms that can now be like, I don't know, podcast studios, for example, right? Like that I get so much positive feedback on that. Unsolicited calls about James being in the office or Victor, right? It's crazy how that has happened. So that was one of the hidden gems. Bookkeeping, another hidden gem. So like those are some of the things that I did not realize that were going to be so important. The ongoing marketing support tends to be like I always say it's like the gold star where you have so much excitement around creating that brand and building that brand. Like so those are some of the I think those are some of the big wins. Let's see. One of the surprising things was we originally launched with tons of tech choice, right? We thought this was going to be fantastic, build your own tech stack, and we wanted everyone to have it. And the advisors came in; they were like kids with a candy store. I want one of everything, and let's start. We found that was a little distracting as well. That became like it was too much tech. These advisors didn't need that much tech, and we ended up having systems that weren't being used, and it was too cumbersome. And so we've started to dial that back and try and have advisors like, let's just start with exactly what we know you need, and then let's add those other elements as you transition, as you get comfortable, as we figure out what you really want to build. So it's not that we took it away, but we just have slowed it down a little bit. So that was one that we learned.
Okay. So you've helped 43 teams now. I'm sure you've talked with many, many more, even with all the tools and resources you have to be able to make this transition, is as easy as possible. Why are advisors still saying no to independence?
So one of the things that I've found is that I don't know that they're saying no to independence, but it's taking them a long time, right? So I think that the due diligence process is complex and they usually have multiple, like for our model, like there's usually multiple decision makers. You need to get everybody aligned. Everybody needs to do the work and do the homework. They need to get like on the same page. There's always a negotiation. Somebody feels stronger about one team than somebody else. And so I think that you have to be patient and you have to wear your consulting hat through the entire process to let them get there on their own time. Because once they get there, they go, they're fast, like I want to leave. How soon can I do it? Right. And I think the other element there is that they need to have a partner like you, right? You need to have somebody that's agnostic, that is helping you make the decision, that is helping you weigh the differences, that is taking like other advisors that have done this before and saying like, look, this is what I saw happen. This is what I saw them experience. I think it's just really, really important. So to me, it's a little bit of, analysis paralysis can happen, but you just have to give them the time.
No doubt. I mean, in the hardest challenge that I see when I'm working with elite teams that this is a good fit for. I mean, there are large teams. There's 4, 5, 6 people in an organization. They're at different levels in their career, different levels in
Yeah.
terms of closeness to retirement. And everyone has different goals, wants different things. And it's just really hard to be able to manage all those expectations, like you said, and get on the same page. But you're right. When it does, it moves quickly.
Yep. It does.
So I remember when Strategic Wealth Services started, it was named something different. It was called LPL's Breakaway Solution. And now it's LPL Supported Independence Model. Can you talk about the difference between that and the evolution behind that?
Yeah, I think we launched it thinking it was going to be only attractive to breakaways. Like fundamentally, that was the sexy part, right? It was the breakaway, it was the transition, it was the friction, right? It was like creating these new brands and like the grand reveal of the space, and so that was really where we thought the market was, and that's how we labeled it. But the reality is now that we have got teams who have been with us for 4 years and we're seeing their evolution, we're seeing what they want to do next, we're seeing how we can come in, help them grow, how we can help them. We've got mergers and acquisitions happening, we've got partnerships happening, right? We've got, advisors like you said that had those multiple generations, right? And we're consulting with them on creating those succession plans and creating training programs for the next gen. People are bringing their children into the business where they never would have brought their children into the business before. So we realize like these are now the stories we're telling, right? We aren't always now talking about the breakaway, the new brand, the new launch. So it's like, okay, actually, it's really all about the support, and it's about the ongoing support. It's the ongoing strategy. It's how do we keep them focused on what's important to them? And it could be different, right? Some of them are growers. Some of them just want to, at this time in their life, really be with their kids, right? So you've kind of got to watch and make sure that you're supporting them the way that they want to be supported. And then that's kind of how that shift happened. And we realized it wasn't all breakaways, right? 20% of them came from an independent channel, and about 25% of the pipeline is made up of independent channels.
Very interesting. It's really impressive what you've done in just a few years, and that the platform is flexible enough to be able to attract both, breakaways and, high flying independent teams as well. I really appreciate the time. Super impressed with what you've built. Is there anything else that you think advisors that are listening should know about?
Well, I think the most important thing is to remember that you're not all the same, right? And that there is a place for you, regardless of where you are in this journey in your career, whether you are fully independent and you want to start your own RIA and do everything yourself, whether you want to be somewhere in the middle where you're looking at outsourcing compliance and using things on an a la carte basis, or one of the more fully supported models like Strategic Wealth or Linsco, which is the independent employee model, right? All of those are available. You can move in between them as your journey changes, right? As you evolve your business, and it's all there, and it's available for you. We call it Advisor Fit. We're here to help you. I'd love for you all to land in Strategic Wealth, but I'm happy to talk about any of the models. I think it's really one of the differentiators of LPL that few, if any, can match.
Awesome. I really appreciate the time. This was super, super valuable. And if anyone has any questions about Strategic Wealth Services, the marketplace in general, my contact information is all over my website and my YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.